Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I have to admit that I'm a little bit surprised to see so many people here in the room. At the end of the day, this close to the cocktail hour, where you all have choices to make, adult beverage, the Knox guy. Adult beverage, the Knox guy. I really expected most of you to be out having an adult beverage instead of being here. But thank you so much for coming. I do have to apologize. I travel a lot. I've caught a little bit of a cold. The good news is I don't think you can catch it via PowerPoint, so you should be okay. They've parked me here behind this desk, which feels a little bit awkward. But hopefully we'll manage, because you're all on TV, by the way. If you all turn to the back of the room and wave, they're filming this for later. So I do appreciate you coming and investing some time with us today. I know a number of you have come from far and wide. I know we have some guests from Australia in the room. Welcome. Aussie, 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 oi, oi, oi. We have some guests from France in the room. Bienvenue. And probably some other places in between. As advertised, my name's Nick Dawson. I'm actually Canadian. I moved to Korea 3.5 years ago. In part because they put a contract in front of me with a lot of zeros on the end of it, and then I realized that the Korean won is about 1,000 won to the dollar, and I probably should have stayed and worked at Starbucks. But so I've been over there 3.5 years, and I'm responsible for the Knox portfolio strategy and global business development. And it's a pleasure to be here to talk a little bit about it today. What I want to do today is I want to actually start off by giving you an overview of what Knox actually is. Because I think for many people, whether you are an existing customer, a possible customer, one of our developer partners, system integration partners, even our EMM partners from companies like VMware and AirWatch, there's a little bit of confusion about what Knox is, because it's actually many, many things. It's not a product. It's not one thing. It's a lot of different things. We're going to go through that today. I do want to put a little bit of a focus on what we do on the developer side, keeping in mind that this is the Samsung Developer Conference. I'm going to talk just a little bit about some of our own capabilities and our own solutions as part of the Knox portfolio, but I do want to talk a little bit more about some of the SDKs, APIs, without going into nitty-gritty details on all of them, because we do not have time. I did threaten to spend 3-4 hours up here, but I know none of you want that to happen, myself included. But to give you an overview of how we work with partners to help enable their business for the benefit of our mutual customers. To start things off very quickly, Knox is absolutely foundational and integral to everything that we at Samsung do on the enterprise side of our business with enterprise customers. Without Knox, the platform and the solution portfolio that comes with Knox, we frankly don't even really have an enterprise business. We just have very, very expensive bits of metal and glass that we try to sell to people that wouldn't be that much different from anybody else's expensive bits of metal and glass. Knox is critical for what we do in the enterprise space. But it's not just an enterprise tool. It's not just an enterprise solution or set of solutions. It's also a series of developer tools and SDKs. And actually, Knox is also used as the foundation anchor point and the security model for many of the personal services that we offer in the Samsung world as well. Some of you may have heard in other sessions people briefly mention Knox, and if you didn't, I want to know about this so I can go punch some of my colleagues, because they should be talking a little bit about it. But when you think of services like Samsung Pay, like Samsung Health, these are anchored by the Knox security foundation that exists on all of our devices. So I'm going to take you through a little bit of that over the next 30-40 minutes or so here. The first question that comes up for most people is, well, isn't Knox just about security? Which frankly is not the most exciting topic known to humankind. I know this because I've been to many cocktail parties in my life. I've tried to talk to people about enterprise mobile security. Their eyes glaze over, and in fact, I got kicked out of my country and sent to Korea for being boring, talking to people about it. But it's absolutely important, and yes, Knox is about security. That's where it started. Our aim and our goal is to build the world's most secure devices. Whether it be smartphones and tablets, which is what we talk about the most, whether it be our Gear watches, whether it be visual displays, which I think is a fancy word for TV, okay? Any connected device that goes onto a network, we need to guarantee the integrity of that device, the security of it, and give people the ability to manage how the device is used, where and when, etc. Knox is about that. It starts with security. It's an overlapping series of defense and security mechanisms that are baked into our products at the factory. Knox isn't something that you download. It's not something you buy. It's not something that you install. The Knox platform, the security part of Knox, is baked right into the device. Then we have On the other side of the equation, we talk about features. We manipulate and manage features on our devices so that devices can be deployed differently depending on the environment in which they need to be used. I'll give you a very simple example. I, like many of you, work in a traditional type of office environment, whether I'm actually in the office or outside roaming around. I work in an office environment. I need a workspace on my device, and I need a personal side to my device as well. My IT department, like many IT departments, wants to control what I can and cannot do with corporate applications and with corporate data. So we have a solution that addresses that need. But if you walk into a retail environment, whether it be a bank, a restaurant, a store, you see these kiosks, nice panes of glass that allow you to interact with information about the environment that you're in. Maybe it's an ordering system, maybe it's a menu, maybe it's a map to a big building or something like that. That is a completely different type of implementation of a device, and Knox also addresses that need. And we'll touch upon some of those things in a little bit. So we talk on the one hand about security, and on the other hand, we're really talking about feature management. And it's really as simple as that. Now, how does it all look? Because we need pretty diagrams for people. Fundamentally, if you think of a device, and I typically think of a smartphone or a tablet, but as I said, we have variants of Knox that we put into today, our Gear watches and other network-connected devices, and our aim and our stated goal is to have a variant of the Knox security platform in every single network-connected device that we produce by the year 2020. This was a goal that we stated a couple of years ago, and we're on track to realizing that dream. Now, what do I mean by a network-connected device? It could be, obviously, a smartphone, a tablet, something like that. It could be a monitor or a TV, visual display. It could be a toaster. Sometimes I talk about the super secure connected toaster. It's my favorite example because it's the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard of. Nobody needs a super secure connected toaster on their network. But if for whatever reason somebody built a Wi-Fi network connected toaster, it would probably say Samsung on the side of it because that's the type of thing that we try to do sometimes, just for fun, to see if anyone will buy it. Right? But if I take this toaster and I attach it to my network, whether it be my home network or whether it be in the corporate lunchroom, it is now a node on the network. There's no data on the toaster. It's a very simple beast. Bread, burnt bread, bread, burnt bread. Turn it upside down, crumbs fall out. That's all it does, right? There's nothing exciting about a toaster. But if I've connected it to a network, it's a gateway to everything else on the network. And the bad guys, right, will attack that node on the network. They will try to use that as an access point to other things on your network where you do have sensitive applications and data. So we need to ensure the integrity and the security of every single network device that we build. That's what the Knox security platform is about. It is the green box there. It is baked into all of our products, as I said, at the factory, anchored into the very chipset of the hardware. It spans every layer of the operating system up to the application layer. We have created an almost impervious, I would like to say impervious, but if we're going to be honest, no solution in the world is 100% secure. Anybody who makes that claim is probably either ill-informed or lying to you. Okay? There's always a hole somewhere. That's why most of us have jobs, right? Because we're always trying to fill those gaps and those holes and come up with improvements to the solutions. But the Knox platform, all of these overlapping series of defense and security mechanisms that have all sorts of interesting acronyms and names and do different things working together in tandem, guarantee that nobody can interfere with your device, nobody can gain access to anything on it. It guards against malware, viruses, intrusion, all bad words. I could use all sorts of fancy technical terms, but the average person, my mother, say, in Vancouver, British Columbia, wouldn't understand them. But she knows that malware, viruses, and intrusion are bad things to happen. Knox, the security platform, guards all of our products against that. Free, out of the box, you don't have to do anything. It's there, right, from the factory. But on top of that security platform, and this is the blue box, on the diagram over there, we have a series of solutions that manage those features that I was talking about earlier, that allow us to deploy our devices in different ways depending on the environment in which they're going. We can do mobile enrollment of devices over the air. We can do configuration and customization of devices. In fact, because we're the manufacturer, and because we're building our hardware and our products out of our own components, we have a level of access and control and privilege over what you can do with the hardware, the operating system, software, everything, that we can actually use commercial off-the-shelf devices, and we have tools that allow you to take those and create completely tailored experiences. Right? Now, it doesn't allow you to take a rectangular tablet and turn it into a pink triangle or something like that, okay? But you can remap hardware buttons, you can remove menus, you can force applications, you can control absolutely every single feature of a Samsung device using certain Knox solutions that are out there. But it's not just our solutions, and this is what's important. We have an entire community of partners out there, developers, system integrators, in some case, and others out there who have built solutions that help either manage Knox or that take their existing products and solutions and services and anchor them within our Knox platform security framework to be able to deliver a richer and more secure experience to our mutual customers. And I'll touch a little bit on what some of those tools are in a few minutes. But in a nutshell, that is what Knox is. Security, feature management, a free platform for security, and solutions, some from Samsung and many, many more from our developer community and our partner community as well. Now, I want to digress just for a moment, if you don't mind. And I'm pulling my phone out just because I want to keep an eye on what time it is here, because I know that you all want to get out of here at a reasonable time. Knox and Android, right? So on our smartphones and tablets, certainly, we use, I think everybody knows this, and if you don't, you're probably in the wrong place. We use Android as our operating system. There is no one version of Android in the world. Right? There's sort of a core Android that Google builds and puts out there. But every OEM, original equipment manufacturer, that's what Google likes to call us all, because we all need to be three-letter acronyms. You're all three-letter acronyms. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but no, I'm kidding. Every OEM has their own implementation of Android on their device. Even Google themselves, with their own phones, they don't actually put core stock Android on it. They have a variant of Android that they put out on their phones. You can think of Knox as our implementation of Android, where we have taken all of the features and capabilities that Google has put into the Android ecosystem, and we take advantage of those and we use those. And Google has invested, and the entire open source community has invested a great deal over the past few years to ensure that Android itself is far more secure than most of you believe it to be. There is still this perception that Android is less secure than another popular operating system from a company that I won't name that is headquartered just down the road from here and has a fruit as a logo. And I'm not talking about BlackBerry. Right? So there has been a lot of work done in the Android ecosystem to ensure the integrity and security of the operating system itself. We have contributed a great deal at Samsung to those efforts, and we're proud to have done so for the greater good of all. Frankly, because we're nice people. Also, because it's an open source project, we have to, because it's the terms of the contract to be able to use the operating system. But we use all of those features, but then we add to them. We have an ability, because we're the hardware manufacturer, and on top of that, we're the manufacturer of the individual components that make up most hardware in the world. We have an ability to go further and deeper than what Google can do, and frankly, than what other OEMs are willing to invest in. Right? So Knox goes deeper than core Android. It does everything, it uses every feature that core Android has, and then adds to it and goes deeper into the hardware of the device. Knox also spans our entire device lineup, right? I say entire. We're getting to the point where it spans the entire device lineup. So yes, we have a variant of Knox for Android. That's where we started. We also have a variant of Knox for the Tizen operating system that we use on most of our wearables and in visual displays and televisions and things like that. There's another variant. We want to put a variant of Knox into every product that we build and we sell that is network connected. So we go deeper than what core Android and Google do, because we have the ability to do so as the device and the hardware manufacturer. And we go wider across our entire ecosystem as well. But we work very closely with them. Knox is not competing with Android. It's just our implementation of Android. Okay. Now, back to, oh, sorry, I missed this slide. Because of the investments that we've made in the platform, because of all of the things we've done to harden the operating system and to harden our devices, we've gained a great deal of market recognition, and we'd like to throw this up there and to remind people. We have more security accreditations from global governments around the world than any other product in the market. Right? We have been rated by third-party evaluators, such as the Gartner Group, for example, the past 2 years. I don't have the numbers for 2017 yet, as having the most strong, and that's their highest rating, ratings of any security solution out there. And this is comparing us against other operating systems, such as the aforementioned people who work down the road from us. Okay? And it's also comparing us to third-party software solutions as well. Because the Knox ecosystem is about hardware, OS, and the application layer, and it's not just a software-based solution, we're able to do a little bit more than other people do. And we've gained market recognition for that. One of the interesting things about the market recognition I always find is we have some of our regular people down here. I'm trying to use my laser beam. It's not working very well. But over on the left side at the bottom, we have some flags of a country that we're in, and my home country, and people who are friendly to most of the people in this audience. Over on the far right side, we have people who are less friendly. Okay? We're certified by everybody. And we'll happily sell devices to just about anybody who's willing to pay for them. Thank you very much for your business. Well, coming back to the portfolio. Again, we have the platform, hardware-based, overlapping series of defense and security mechanisms that are built into the device to defend against intrusion, malware, viruses, any form of malicious activity. Okay? And it's about guaranteeing device integrity, because if you can trust the device, if you can trust that foundational piece, then you can trust the other things that you layer on top of it. If you can't trust the foundation, the hardware, you can't trust the operating system, then how are you going to trust the application layer that's on that device? You just can't, and you shouldn't. So we have that. That is the free part. Then we have Knox Solutions. Again, feature management, application management. It's about flexibility and control. We have some of our own solutions. I'm not going to harp on these overly much. Many of you use these solutions. You're familiar with them. Just very quickly, the idea behind our solutions is we give our enterprise customers the ability to follow the life cycle of a device from the moment they purchase it to the day they retire it, and then buy a new one, and the cycle starts again. From remote enrollment and bulk enrollment of devices into an enterprise mobility management tool, such as one from our partners. Now, we may have other partners in the room. I'm not trying to play favorites here, but I see the AirWatch guys are here in the room, a very popular, well-reputed solution in the market. We partner with them very, very closely. We can enroll a device and then hand it over for management to your existing infrastructure that's in place. We can allow you to customize and configure every single facet and feature of the device so that you can have tailored, unique experiences based on your requirements. We have a workspace isolation and containment solution that allows you to segregate work applications and data completely from the personal side of the device. Because it's anchored in the hardware and the operating system, it goes beyond the capabilities of other solutions on the market. It's not to pick on those solutions. They're very good at what they do, but they can only go so far. It's not their fault. They don't have the same privileged level of access to the hardware levels that we do as the device manufacturer. That's all. We do have our own management tools as well, mainly for small, medium business, or in emerging markets for people who don't know how to spell EMM. We have tools that will help them manage mobile devices as well, whether they be ours or other people's. And we can even control firmware versions. It's one of the complaints about the Android world versus other worlds, that there's so many different versions of Android out there, and it's hard to manage what's going on. Well, we this year have launched a tool. It's called eFOTA, mainly because all the good names were taken already. But eFOTA stands for Enterprise Firmware Over the Air, and it allows us to give our customers the ability to dictate what version of operating system they are on, and to be able to gate and freeze people at a certain version and prevent them from updating to a newer version that could potentially break something. They need to test it before they allow it to be deployed. Standard type of capability that's been in the desktop world for many years, we've brought it to the Android world with our devices, to the mobile world in general. But more importantly, we have partner solutions. Partner solutions for every industry, right? And every vertical within those industries, whether it be business intelligence systems, whether it be secure communication channels, productivity tools, et cetera, et cetera. We have an entire catalog of solutions built by system integrators or software developers, sometimes even hardware developers as well, that are anchored by that Knox platform at the bottom to be able to provide a more secure, a more controlled, and a more managed experience to, again, our mutual customers. So we have all of these solutions out there, and I'm not going to go through all of them, But I want to highlight just 2 or 3 examples for you to give you a flavor of some of the things that happen. So for example, there is an organization in Korea where I live, because I am the albino Korean here in the room. I like to tell people. I'm not really. But we have a partner in Korea. They have deployed tablets as an educational tool to young students. They've done over 400,000 of these tablets to date. Now, the problem with giving a connected tablet to a student is all of a sudden you start worrying about if they go off onto the internet and do things, or they start doing stuff on these tablets that you don't want them to, listening to music, playing games, whatever it is. So they need to lock these tablets down. They need to provide a customized environment that is designed, right, from a user experience perspective to meet the needs and the expectations of those young students. So this company, Ungjin, has created what they call the BookPad, using Samsung tablets that are just bought commercially off the shelf. We thank them very much for their business. And they've used our configuration tools to create a bespoke, tailored experience. And it is a very, very profitable business for them, and frankly, for us as well. Everybody wins in this solution. Another completely different example. About half of the police forces in the United Kingdom have upgraded their older smartphones that were a previous company to a more modern smartphone device. And they are providing very secure access to critical information systems for law enforcement. Police records management systems, the National Criminal Information Database, and their CAD systems, which in this place stands for computer-aided dispatch. These are highly sensitive systems. They need to be able to provide a very, very secure implementation to guarantee that nobody can tamper with the device and thereby gain access to the data or those systems themselves. So that is something that we've done with partners. Partners have created the software and the implementation services to roll this out. We're not very good at doing that ourselves. We depend on our partner community to do so. And we have all of the tools and programs to enable those partners to do so. This is a healthcare organization in Canada, and they are home healthcare nurses. So they visit the elderly patients who have been discharged from hospital. And for those of you who are American in the room and all the horror stories you've heard about our healthcare system in Canada, they are all lies. Our healthcare system is wonderful, one of the best in the world. And we will send nurses to people's houses, free of charge, by the way, and to monitor their conditions, to check up on them, etc. Again, these nurses are accessing clinical information systems. They're accessing patient data, which is among some of the most sacrosanct data on earth. And we have partners using the Knox platform have developed a very, very secure implementation that meets the government security certifications that are required and meets the functional user experience requirements of the customer themselves to be able to do this. So we've rolled this out to about I think it's approximately 5,000 nurses across the province of Ontario, which is, about a third of Canada, not by size, but by population. Very, very successful project. In fact, I think they're in the 2nd or 3rd generation of this, so it's repeat business for us and for our partners as well. So how do we do this? How do we work with our partners? How do we enable them? We have a series of developer tools. Now, we have a whole bunch of SDKs, because why would you build one when you can build many, right? More fun for all. I'll let you in on a little secret. A bunch of those SDKs are drawn with a blue box around them for a reason, which we were going to announce here at the show, but decided not to. So it will become apparent why in the not too distant future. But those are the core SDKs that allow the different features on our devices to be used. The SDKs themselves, of course, are free to the developer community and to our partners. Now, depending on the solution that might be built or used, there could be a slight charge for an underlying license once it's used. There may or may not be. That is something that's a business discussion that we can have with people, and we have all the information. I'm not going to present numbers here to you today, mainly because I don't know all the numbers. I cannot possibly remember them in my tiny, tiny little brain. But we have a variety of tools that allow you to access some standard features, some more premium features. We have a customization tool set to create, such as that Ungjin BookPad that we mentioned a few slides ago. The list goes on. We have SDKs for the Gear watches and for other products out there. Anything that Knox touches, there is an SDK out there today that allows you to manipulate the features on those devices. We have hundreds of features on our devices. We have, I think it's over 1,850 APIs today that can be called upon by these SDKs to be used. We have a few other SDKs that are a little bit special. and separate, so they come outside of the big blue box. One of them is interesting. It's not actually an SDK at all. It's, we called it an app because we weren't really sure what to call it, but it's not technically really an app. What it is, and to explain it better, we call it Knox Enabled App. To explain it, I'll give you the perfect use case scenario for Knox Enabled App. If you are a bank, you probably provide a mobile banking application for your customers. We all use those. And if you are that bank, you probably, by law in your jurisdiction, need to set aside a certain amount of money every year for losses, claims, fraudulent transactions, things that just go wrong out there in the world. Now, a bank would absolutely love to take that application and put it inside a secure work container and to be able to manage the device and lock it down to ensure that the transaction that you're doing in the mobile world is as secure as, say, the business that they do internally with their own devices. But a bank cannot put their applications inside a container. They can't, manage and control your device with an EMM tool, for example, because first of all, you wouldn't let them. Second of all, it would be cost prohibitive to potentially do this for millions upon millions of customers around the world. And there's a variety of other reasons as well. So what we did is we created Knox Enabled App, which is a container that exists on the device that is activated by the device, by the application, the mobile banking application, for example. So when the mobile banking application is downloaded from the Google Play Store and it is going through its install routine, the very first thing that happens with an Android application is something called a manifest file. And the manifest file is a series of instructions to the device about where to install me, where to place an icon, et cetera, et cetera. We put about a couple of lines of code that we just provide. It's free. You can download them off our website. A couple lines of code in the manifest file. And what it does is it tells that mobile banking application, if you are installing yourself on a Samsung device, create this invisible secure container that requires no EMM tool to manage it, so the bank isn't touching or controlling your phone. But make this isolated environment on the device. Install yourself in there, so that if my mobile banking customer does something remarkably foolish on the personal side of their device, nothing will be able to interact with my banking application that's there. It is an extra layer of security. Now, it's something that technically has a cost to it, although, by and large, we give this capability away for free for people. It is and if you need to understand how my colleague Jen is sitting over there hiding, hoping that no one will pick on her, and she runs that product line for us. We're more than happy to provide all of these tools for you for free. Again, so that you can provide a more secure experience for our mutual customers. The nice thing about that Knox Enabled App capability is it's the bank's standard Android application. They don't have to have a special version for Samsung, because that manifest file, while it's being read, it's saying if you're on a Samsung device, create this container, put yourself inside it. If you're not on a Samsung device, just continue to install yourself normally as you would. An extra layer of security. So we've deployed this with a few customers around the world where they're just able to provide an extra level of comfort and security for their Samsung customers as opposed to their others. It's not to suggest that their application is poor to begin with, but if you can do a little bit more for free and not impact the user experience, why not take advantage of it? So where do we go from here with Knox? Well, there is obviously a future. Sometimes rumors pop up that, Knox might go away, Knox is changing. Not true. We invest very, very heavily in this platform. We invest heavily in the solution set. In fact, we invested far more in 2017 than we've ever invested before, and we have phenomenally big plans for 2018 as well. We continue to make investments at that core security platform level, continuously, monthly, putting out security patches and updates to all of our devices, ensuring that they are among the most secure on planet Earth. We continue to invest in our portfolio of solutions and increasingly in our portfolio of partner solutions as well, which is a big imperative for us going forward. But change is constant and mobility itself is evolving as well. We're seeing IoT, of course. Everybody likes to talk about IoT, the Internet of Things. We build more things at Samsung, I think, than anybody else. If you don't believe me, you can come to my apartment in Seoul. I think everything is built by Samsung. The building is built by Samsung. The fridge is built by Samsung. The rice cooker and the vacuum cleaner, which, by the way, look exactly the same, except one has wheels and a nozzle, built by Samsung. The elevator was built by Hyundai, but everything is built by Samsung. We build an awful lot of things. Gartner and others in the world predict that there will be over 20 billion IoT endpoints by the year 2020, network-connected devices. Now, your phones and tablets are also IoT devices, but so will be perimeter sensors out in a large agricultural concern. So will be things in the basements of buildings. In a lot of cases, IoT will be things that you do not interact with on a regular basis. And if you don't see them, out of sight, out of mind, you may forget that you need to be able to guarantee the security and integrity of those endpoints on your network, just like you do with your desktops, just like you do with your phones and tablets today. We have artificial intelligence coming. Now, AI for a lot of people is personal voice assistants and things like that. Very, very useful. Nick, you have a flight in 3 hours. There's traffic on the 101. Get out of here now if you want to make your flight. Sort of standard thing here in the Valley, right? But AI is morphing and evolving, and the way we see AI on the enterprise side is it is going to be a functional replacement for a lot of the drudgery work that we need to do in the IT space. Onboarding new employees, determining when somebody are perhaps exposing themselves to some malicious activity. We talk a lot actually about something called contextual awareness. Depending on how you're interacting with your device, whatever it may be, where you are, what you're doing, time of day. This can be everything from the cadence of your typing pattern if it changes, to all of a sudden you're mishitting a letter. Instead of hitting the letter R, top right, so all of a sudden you're hitting it bottom left. Something has changed in your environment. Being able to set a trust scale, if you will, as an IT administrator. And if somebody breaches that trust scale, something happens. It automatically triggers an activity. Maybe a certain critical application, access to it is blocked. Maybe the application is taken and removed right off of your device entirely and reprovisioned when you come back into a safe state. If you're a business executive and you work, for example, for a defense contractor in the DC area, you probably have access to an awful lot of sensitive information. If you go on personal vacation to an unsavory part of the world, you might forget to tell your IT department that you are doing this. The AI systems will automatically know, hey, wait a minute, you are in an untrusted place, and we want to invoke certain actions, such as blocking access or removing applications from your device, until such a time as you come back to a trusted state. We have 5G networks coming as well. 5G isn't just about speed. The beauty about 5G is its ubiquity, its broad reach over geographic areas. Also, near zero latency. The speed of the network, the latency on the network itself, you're going to be able to provide real-time services. Now you're going to be able to honestly talk about a doctor in a remote location operating via robots and things, right, in real time on a patient with guaranteed 5 nines, even 6 nines of service availability on that network. And all of these evolutions that are coming that we talk about a lot in the world today, they converge in the mobility space. Now, the fun thing is, this convergence is very, very similar to the mobile space today with smartphones and tablets. IoT devices are going to be nodes on your network. Do you trust the node? Do you trust that piece of hardware? Has somebody tampered with it? If somebody has tampered with an IoT device and is feeding bad data to an AI algorithm, the downstream consequences of that could be catastrophic to a business. Right? It absolutely could be catastrophic. You need to trust that node. The Knox platform does that for you. You need to trust any solutions or services that might be on the IoT device if it is chunking through data and applications on its own, as opposed to just dumping them off to a cloud service somewhere else. You need to trust all of this, and it's exactly the same model that we have today with mobile devices, with smartphones and tablets. It is the exact same concern. We have things out there on untrusted networks beyond the firewall. We don't know what they're interacting with, how they're being used. We've lost control over a lot of what happens in the computing world because of mobility, and it's exercising a degree of caution, that is absolutely paramount, both in the personal space, but certainly in the enterprise space. Certainly in the enterprise space. That's what mobility has taught us. So what we're doing going forward is we are taking the lessons learned from that first wave of mobility, smartphones, tablets, and increasingly things like watches and other peripherals. And we're applying them to these next waves of change that are coming with IoT, with AI, and the 5G networks, et cetera, et cetera. Now, there's a lot of different things here at the Samsung Developer Conference. We have a platform for IoT called Arctic. Arctic is a platform and a set of tools that allow you to create IoT products or IoT-based services. There are a lot of the elements of Knox exist within Arctic. They may not be called Knox because you can only put so many names on something, right, before people start to lose the narrative. Okay? But the concept of what we do with our security model is baked into everything. It is pervasive throughout Samsung's mobile business space, regardless of what it is. Mobile devices introduce all of the same risks that we see with IoT and with AI, and we're going to take those lessons learned and apply them to that space. We are expanding our tool sets, and we're working with partners and developers to have them help us help our customers to provide the security, the monitoring, the management, the capabilities that they need in this new space. So I think of Knox as a platform not just for today, but also a platform for the future. I threw another platform up there on this slide as well. It's called Samsung Pass, which is an identity and authentication platform as well. It's actually based on Knox, technically. It requires Knox to run. I drew it side by side because it was just easier to fit into the diagram, to be honest with you. But we have baked these, the way we see our world is we create devices, some of the most sought after devices in the world, and we sell more of them than anybody else on earth. We bake into those devices the platforms and the capabilities to do all of the things we've just been talking about. And then we have the developer community and the SDKs and the tools to be able to provide the solutions and services that our customers need, depending on how they want to use the device and where and what for. And that is what meets our customer requirements that are out there. And we're able to do this and guarantee an end-to-end security model for the whole thing, from the chipset, from the hardware, right up to that application layer, and right out over the network as well. And that fundamentally is what it's all about. I think I'm probably either out of time or close to it. I usually am. I think we're actually a few minutes early. But does anybody, I know it's late in the day. I know everyone's thinking, yeah, that adult beverage sounds pretty good right about now. But does anybody have any questions about this? Any comments at all? Something? I might start picking on people if you don't. No? Nothing at all? Yes, sir. Yeah. So obviously we have having a lot of SDKs can be confusing. They all kind of look a little different. They evolved at different times for different purposes. It would seem to me it would make a lot of sense if we clean that up a little bit. This is being filmed. I'm going to stop there. Yeah. Also, today was my last day at Samsung. No, hopefully I'm joking. Yeah. But yeah, so it's some cleanup coming to that space. In fact, your developers where you work already have access to what we're doing and are playing with it right now. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned about eFOTA.
Yes.
Versus FOTA.
Yeah.
So which one takes control over? Because FOTA, by definition,
So
all the devices
FOTA,
get upgraded.
it's actually quite simple to explain. It's a good question. Thank you for asking. FOTA, firmware over the air, is a very binary process. And what it means is it means that you can, as an IT administrator, for devices that you control, for example, through an AirWatch or our Knox Managed product, whatever your management infrastructure is that you've chosen to use, you can block people from updating the operating system, okay, or not. Right? It's fundamentally a very binary process. Here's the problem. Let's say we're on version 1 of the operating system, just to keep it simple, and we release version 2 of the operating system. As an IT organization and any company of any size, typically what happens is the IT administrators will say, nobody gets to upgrade. We want to test it. We want to make sure that all of our applications and services work the way they're supposed to. Test it, test it, test it, make sure it doesn't break anything. Right? And then we say, okay, you can all upgrade now. And we open up the floodgates with FOTA. Well, meanwhile, Samsung, being the very nice people that we are, we've launched version 3 of the operating system. And what happens is everybody jumps to the latest version by default. That's just the way the world works. Okay? I didn't make the rules. I'm just here to tell you about them. So what eFOTA does, it allows you to gate and stop people at a very specific version. So you can say, listen, I want to stop everybody from upgrading. I want you to be able to upgrade, but I don't want you to go to version 3 because I only tested version 2 or 2.1 or whatever it is. So that's what you can update to. Furthermore, I might say, you know what, I'm going to force you all to update your devices. I want everybody on this version because I want to make sure they have the latest security framework and patches and all of those things. It's about control of the version of the operating system at a very, very granular level, whereas today, it's just you can allow people to upgrade or not, right? So there's no real control over it. Does that answer the question for you, sir? Okay. Any other questions at all? Oh, more. This is exciting, fun. She has a microphone.
So Knox is running on all your consumer mobile devices. Was stage fright then like anomaly? Or?
So things like stage fright, for example, or any vulnerability that comes out there. It's a good question, thank you. Vulnerabilities appear out there in the world. And again, I mentioned a little bit earlier, by the way, this is a little bit of a tangent to your question, but if you'll allow me. I mentioned that there's this perception out there in the marketplace that Android is less secure than that other, main operating system in the mobile space. It is perception, and there's a number of reasons for it, but I think the most critical reason for it is because Android is an open source project. There are many people who collaborate in the Android space. Google, Samsung, other device manufacturers, Qualcomm, Microsoft, everybody. When one of us finds a vulnerability, we are duty-bound to post that vulnerability on a website so that everybody in the ecosystem knows about it and can work on fixing it. Pro to that benefit, we get things solved quickly. We can patch things very, very quickly because we have a lot of resources working on it from around the world within the entire ecosystem. One of the cons to that, however, is that we are posting our dirty laundry out there in public for everyone to see. Now, if you have a very closed ecosystem and a very closed environment, not naming any names, where you have let's call it a walled garden, for example, okay? Something like that. You'll find a vulnerability, or someone will tell you about a vulnerability, and you will absolutely fix it, don't get me wrong. But you don't have to tell the world about it, and frankly, if I had that closed ecosystem, I wouldn't tell the world either, because why would you sit there and advertise, hey, bad guys, there's a gaping hole right here. We'll have it fixed in 2 weeks, but in the meantime, have at it. Right? So that's why there's a little bit of a perception out there. Now, to come back to your direct question, things like stage fright, other vulnerabilities that come up. As I said earlier, no security platform or solution is 100% perfect. But what we do is we actually have in place these overlapping defense and security mechanisms that work together that guarantee the integrity of the device. Something like stage fright, we actually already had defense mechanisms in place to defend our devices against an attack like that. Right? They were already there. We knew about the vulnerability, and sometimes vulnerabilities appear that we don't know about, and they're a surprise to us as they are to anybody else, but we can go through and say, you know what, because we have this, that, and the other already in place, there's absolutely no way where this vulnerability would be able to impact our device. On very rare occasions, under very, very specific conditions, that somebody takes all of the right steps to somehow bypass all of our security measures. And they have to be incredibly clever, far more clever than I am, okay, to be able to do that and to bypass everything. There is obviously the possibility that somebody could get past some of these security mechanisms. To date, we're not aware of any. And one of the things that we do is we guarantee and we protect at all cost the kernel of the OS, which is the core. If I can gain access to the kernel of the operating system, I don't mean to offend anybody with this statement, but I have godlike power over that device. I can make it do anything. I can turn your camera on, you have no idea. I can take your work and data isolation container, whatever it is. I can make it disappear, but make it look like it's still there. I can do anything to your phone if I can gain access to the kernel. When you root a device, which is analogous to jailbreaking on another product that's out there in the world, they're basically the same thing. You're actually exposing and removing all defenses from the kernel and exposing it to any attacker forevermore, because you can't unroot a device. Right? Once you've opened the door, opened Pandora's box, it's too late. Okay? One of the things that we do, and we take great pride in, and we do it differently than anybody else in the industry, and we do things that nobody else does, and I'm not going to go through it here because there's a lot of technical stuff, but if you have a flight to catch later this week, we have some wonderful white papers that will set you to sleep in like 5 minutes or less on your journey home, okay, to read up on it. But we protect that kernel at all cost. We actually do everything in our power to prevent our devices from being rootable, for example. I hope that goes at least part way to answering your question. Happy to go into a bit more detail and more specifics with you, but it's hard to do here. I think there was another question nearby.
Yes, I understood that some of the features of the SDKs are for free, and
Yes.
some of them are paid for.
Yeah.
What's an easy and clear way to find the boundary?
Yeah, so actually that's good. The actual SDKs themselves are free. What it is if you then want to, for example, you develop a solution and it requires some licenses perhaps to run on a device, those licenses could potentially cost a little bit of money. And there's a different, I don't have the chart with everything on it for me, but to answer the question, sorry, I went too far. No, I didn't go far enough. One of the easier ways to consider it today is we have what's called, well, it's on the left, my laser beam, my lightsaber isn't working. The top left, there's something called the standard SDK. That is free. Everything that you can do with the standard SDK is free to you, free to customers, free to anybody. We have just to the right of that something that we call the premium SDK. If you use some of those more advanced services that are in there, they may potentially cost a little bit of money based on the number of devices being deployed, et cetera, et cetera. We're happy to take you through it. On our website, we have some details about this, and we're happy if you want. Let's exchange some information, make sure we get you that via follow-up email or communications afterwards, if you don't mind. Any other questions at all? No? All right, well, listen. Thank you very much. Kamsahamnida. Thank you for coming. Merci. I wish you a wonderful evening. I hear there is some form of cocktail reception. And if there isn't, I'm going to invent one. I hope it's been a good day for you. I know it's a long day, and I know you've probably been PowerPointed to death, but we appreciate the investment. If anybody needs to get a hold of me or the rest of the broader team, I'm just the guy who owns a suit that gets up and talks publicly. The smart people are all back at the office, but there is my email address there, n.Dawson. They told me I had to put a dot in there. I have no idea why, but there you go, at Samsung.com, and happy to put you in touch with the right people. Ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful evening.